So today we are going to talk about getting ready for homeschool. Whether you are just now starting homeschool for the first time ever, congratulations, or if you are a veteran homeschooler and you are working on getting into the next year. We're going to talk about how to get ready for that, and I'm going to show you what I have done. I've got my binder right here next to me, and yeah, so we're going to just jump in and go ahead and talk about it. Hi, my name is Amanda from Learning to Love Well, and today we are going to talk about homeschool from a biblical worldview. Of course, that's what this channel is about. And if you are new to the channel, I am a homeschool mom of 4 babies. I am homeschooling from 9th grade all the way down to 1st grade this year. We have been homeschooling for over a decade now, if you count pre-K and a couple of things that we did ahead of time. It is late. Guys, when I film around my family. Excuse the fact that I don't have any makeup on. I know some people would think that was horrifying, but I'm just going to be real with you. And if you can, hopefully this will just be a space where we can be real moms, where we can piggyback off each other and learn from one another. So anyway, today we are going to talk about getting ready for homeschool. Now that is a little bit daunting if you are new. I remember, quick story time. I remember in Hawaii, okay, for the record, if you could have saw me, I was a hot mess. I did not know the regulations for there. Honestly, I don't even know that I knew a whole lot of the homeschool regulations when we first moved there. We had just PCS'd over from the East Coast all the way to Hawaii. Everything was different. I was on the phone with the homeschool liaison. I mean, I was a mess and I was overthinking everything. Yeah, like I don't know if I wanted a snapshot of what that looked like, but it was something. I look back now and I can laugh, but back then I was not laughing. I was freaked out. I was in a new location and I had no idea what I was doing, but praise God for resources. I praise God that the Lord equips us to do exactly what we don't think we can do. That was a hard season, but I have learned a little bit since those days, and I have learned what works and what doesn't work for our family. One of the things that I have learned that works really, really well is each of my children having a binder. So this is how I am getting ready for homeschool. Now, I'm going to give you a caveat. I have not gone through this child's binder. And so if you see some pages sticking out, I'm giving you the raw, unedited version. I just pulled a packet of worksheets out that was sticking out of this person's folder. And I'm just going to show you what we keep actually year round. I am going to show you the uncut, pretty raw version. I will be blanking out any names and things like that for the privacy of my children. I know some people feel comfortable putting their children online. I have reservations about it, not because I just have reservations about it. And so because of that, I am going to show you. Now this is my youngest binder, and this will be evident by how little there is in each of the binders. If you get to my older children's binders, they're way more full. And that's because they stick some of their extra worksheets. I try to stick plastic pocket folder like this in the back where they can put like worksheets. So they've got like 4 pockets in here to stick whatever worksheets they want. It also becomes very helpful for worksheets that you want to keep for evidence that you actually did your homeschool for the year. If you are very new to homeschool and you do not know your schooling regulations, there is a website called hslda.org, and it is Homeschool Legal Defense League, and it is wonderful for this. So you can type it in by your state and you will get the Cliff Notes version of what is required in your state. And for compliance purposes, that is so important. If you do not have the understanding of what you should keep, planning for homeschool and planning for your homeschool administration is going to be very taxing, and it's going to feel like guesswork. But really, this website really does take out a lot of the guesswork. It is free, so you don't have to put in any information or anything else to get this information. It is 100% free for you to just go click, go figure out your information, and then it even has, I think, a link that takes you to your actual state website. Now, I know for me, my state website requires, or sorry, not my state website, my state requires me to open an actual homeschool and maintain those documents for a year to year. I live in the state of North Carolina. If that is not your state, some states do not require that at all. In Hawaii, the only thing we were required to do was to send in a letter of intent that told my public school, my local public school, that, hey, my kids are homeschooling. And then all I had to do was submit a letter at the end of the year that says, hey, I'm moving them up. And that was literally it. That was all we had to do in Hawaii for my children to pass grades. So if you do not know your state requirements, this would be a great time to look it up. Okay, so also along the lines of state requirements, the things that you should probably keep on hand no matter what state that you are homeschooling in would be an attendance record. Now, we just put the attendance record in for my children, and because of the fact that, yeah, I will actually, you can print this one off of the internet. I can actually put the tag below, and this one is from the state of North Carolina, but it works, or you can make your own. I just print one off, and it is really good about just keeping track of my children's days that they are in, so I can make sure I'm staying state compliant. I'll actually do it this way. As you can see, I go ahead and block off the days that I know we will be out of school. These are the weekends. And I do that because it just helps us to keep the weeks on track, and there's not a whole lot of guesswork when my children are like checking their attendance records, or I'm checking their attendance records, and it just makes it so much easier, more neat and organized. And if I wanted to at this point, I could also block off any days that they're off, and it makes it super easy at the end of the year to calculate how many days they were in school to keep all of our records. Another thing that I like to keep is a reading log. So this year we started on a 100-book challenge. We have not been writing all the books down, and we're gonna have to go update this very soon, but it's 100 books. It actually goes up to 126 books. But it was just a quick worksheet that I put on Canva to where I can very quick and easy write down the books that my child has read, or in this case, because he is still learning to read, that we can put down for him so that he can go through and get his 100-book challenge in as well. If you don't want to do a 100-book challenge, there are other reading logs. I know in the back of Master Books, I actually have this one in here right now too, is, if you can see that, it says reading book list. Sometimes, I'm going to be honest, I don't always do the best at keeping up with these, but they are nice to have if you are one of those people that really want to make sure that you're hitting all of those books that you wanted read. In our homeschool, I also tend to keep things like drill sheets. So if you have things that you want them to memorize, drill sheets, I go ahead and print them out, things like drill sheets with like definitions and things like this. And these are our group readers that we do together, but those also stay in the attendance records. So like for an example of drill worksheets would be counting by tens, counting by fives, twos. This is a counting by threes worksheet. Things like that, that they can just go back. Anything that they're going to reference a whole lot throughout the school year, having that in one central place. I find that my notebook is their individual notebooks. They just pull them out. They know where their drill sheets are, and it makes it very easy and accessible. Another thing is a shot record. In a lot of states, a shot record is mandatory. In our state, there is an exemption if you would like to give an exemption. However, you have to also have that recorded. So that is something that you would want to keep also in your attendance record for administration purposes. Another thing that I like to keep in my attendance records is testing grades. Now, I don't have any testing grades in this one because this is the first year this child's tested. He was in kindergarten this year. So next year, we will start stocking up on his test scores and things like that. But for the meantime, he does have certificates. So anytime that my children graduate a book or graduate from something, like he has a graduation certificate from the church or a completion, like for example, on Foundations to Phonics. When he finishes curriculum, I tend to put their certificates in here because it shows completion and it shows that they finished that book. I think that's very important, especially if you are in a state that has more rigorous demands. The ability to show that your children are accomplishing the books or the curriculums that they're doing, or keeping things like projects they've done, art projects. Like, for example, at the beginning of every one of their notebooks, if they have an art project or something that they did, then it goes in here. Another thing that I like to do at the beginning of the school year, and if anyone's interested, I will put a printable document down below, is I like to make all about you worksheets. Now, I know that could be controversial in Christian circles, but I like to put things like what are their favorite colors, what are their favorite foods, talents that God has given me, the things I'm most grateful for, my favorite things I want to learn, and hobbies that you're currently into. And I like to do this at the beginning of every year because it is very cool to both me and my children when we keep these pages in their notebooks. Now, some of my kids have had their notebooks for a while, and I will, like I said, I'll put them in like sheet protectors and I'll keep them in their binders. And they can go back and look at their own answers from years previously. And it is amazing how much they change, how much their colors change, their favorite foods change, the things that they enjoy. And you get to see their growth over the years, and they do too. And that has just been and that to me has just been a huge blessing, that they can see how they have changed over the years as well. So while you are starting to get ready back for homeschool, doing the administration part, I highly suggest finding one central place of record keeping for all of your children. Some moms I know put them in like one big binder. For me, the individual 3-ring binders like these ones, let's see, I think this is a 2-inch binder. And I can tell you, for my older children, the 2-inch binders get really full very quick, especially if you're keeping it over the years. And then I have all of their mandatory subjects for all of their grades. I also will say that keeping anything that just shows progress, or if they did like a really awesome essay, or if they got awarded for something through a class, or maybe they're in like a WANA, or they're in something that hands out certificates, maybe it's Boy Scouts, it's Girl Scouts, maybe it's SAT hours, whatever. This would be a great place to start logging some of those for proof for college, for high school, or just keeping almost like an accomplishments books for your kids. One, I have found that my children like that when they can go back and see some of the things they did and art projects they did, and they're like, oh, I did that. And it's just a really cool, fun memory to be able to do with your children, especially when you're starting on a new year. I will say, for any new mamas out there, if this binder looks daunting, come up with your own method. I will say that this is what has worked best for me, and the reason it is because each child has their own binder and that's organized and I can find it and it's wonderful. But every person does it slightly differently, and that's okay. What I did starting out is not what I do now. I've gotten more organized over the years, praise God, because I have learned what works really well for me and how to stay state compliant, and it is no longer a big deal for me. And if you are just starting homeschool, it probably feels like a really big deal for you. But I promise it's a season. It gets easier. With God's help, you'll get more and more comfortable with what you're doing, and you won't feel so overwhelmed at taking this on. I know curriculum's a lot. I know that we can get very, very bogged down about all the curriculum choices and all the things, but honestly, don't. Prayerfully talk to God about your curriculum, talk to your husband, do research. And I have seen God be so faithful over the years to provide the right curriculum and show me how to bob and weave when I needed to with my children. Do not let it get you down, and do not let it stress you out. I know that when you start a new thing, it seems like a mountain, but really the longer you do it, the more you realize it was very simple. It was simply a molehill that you had to go over, and that over the years you'll become more and more confident and comfortable with the regulations and how to stay in compliance and how to do everything in a way that honors the Lord and honors the emperor, to use biblical language. And it's really cool to just see how much your kids progress. So if you're starting over this year, if you're new, my suggestion as a homeschool mom is get yourself a good organization tool, whether it be a binder, whether it be a file cabinet, whatever, to start getting away all of your administrative work, because doing that once a year and making sure it just gets looked in on over the course of a year, you will find that it's way easier to keep up with if you do that. Now, grade books and stuff like that, if you have a child going into high school, or you just like to keep grade books all throughout years, it is pretty easy to make one on a spreadsheet. I have just made one for my child. I've actually posted a video with that when I was talking about how I was preparing to get ready for this homeschool year. So what I will say is, don't stress, don't worry. There are tons and tons of resources. If you have a question about a resource that you need, drop a comment down below and I will try to answer whatever comment comes my way. I really want this to be a channel where people can come and get questions asked if that's what they need. So without further ado, I'm gonna jump off here and I'm probably gonna get some sleep. God bless and have a great night.